All right, welcome back, mates. Hope everyone's doing well this weekend as we transition from the heat of August to a little reprieve in the heat. Obviously, this weekend, mostly around 70-some degrees, maybe high 60s to mid 70s, most part of the region. And so we've seen that temperature whip back, right? We've gone from being in the 90s to now being in the 70s. And I've gotten a lot of messages from people saying, what am I seeing on the river? What am I seeing, in terms of forage, in terms of bait, in terms of what we're seeing? Not much other than the rain that has stained up the water. And especially in areas where you got tribs and you got cuts that are coming in to your river system, is bringing mud and everything into it because of the high water event. It basically takes everything off the bank, everything, any kind of loose composition, any of that stuff just comes straight down with the volume, right, of water flow into your river system. So around those mouths, which are typically really good areas to fish, you're seeing a lot more mud, darker stained chocolate milk kind of situations. And then as you get further towards the middle of the river, it clears up just a little bit. Still stained, but not nearly as bad as those areas, right? Now, it's still early in this transition because it's just happening now, okay? So you still have grass, right? But eventually that grass is going to die out. And as soon as you recognize that your area, that grass is dying out, is no longer green and flourishing bright under the water, you got to move, because the fish aren't going to be there. They're going to move because the forage species are also no longer going to be there. And the reason being is this time of year, the bait fish act a little bit different than they did all summer long. They start to kind of just change a lot of their behavior. I covered a little bit. Check it out, the jerkbait video on what a jerkbait mimics in the water is a dying bait fish. This is why they're so effective in the early fall, because there are a lot of bait fish mates in your river systems that do not like cold water. Okay, they don't function well. Eventually they're going to die. Okay, when the water reaches a certain temperature. But as we start to drop in that water temperature, their behavior starts to change. They start to look for different areas. They try to get back back to close into cut-ins, back into areas that maybe around docks, maybe around whatever, as opposed that offers them some form, because they know something's different, right, than it's been all summer for them. So it's a survival instinct. And so you still can throw your basic baits, your grass line baits, in your river systems while that grass is still flourishing, right? It's going to start to die back then. And so you have to monitor that. Right now, I'm seeing higher catch rates. I'm talking to a lot of people, as well as myself, transitioning patterns. I am a big color pattern person because of custom bait makers and airbrush painting and crankbait painting, okay? I'm a believer in it. Some people aren't. But I'm also a believer in action and having the right vibration, the right action, and the right thump in your baits. It's not like a one fixed thing. But right now what you're seeing is you're starting to see crayfish in the river systems changing their color again, okay? A lot of that has to do with what they're eating themselves. It gets kind of like displayed in their shells, right? If you were watching television this weekend, or you were online in the Bassmaster Northern Open event on the Upper Bay, this kind of got talked about subtly, okay? When you saw the color of the crankbaits inside the boats, okay? If you were at the dock, at the ramp, you saw the color of the crankbaits that were being tied on for the Northern Open, okay? And so one of the things I'm doing now, okay, is I'm transitioning, still going to throw a chatterbait because the grass, okay, and the structure and all of that, the water stained up a little bit, so the colors are different, but it works to your advantage right now, okay? Because one of the chatterbaits right now that I'm throwing is this one right here, okay? And so this chatterbait mimics, you can change out the grub, you can put a paddle tail swim bait on there, okay? You can, whatever your poison is, okay? But these colors are mimicking the crawl colors we're seeing now in our river systems, okay? Because their shell concentration is changing, okay? I'm using that copper style. You can use, gold blade works, but you want that noise because of the water being stained up, okay? As opposed to throwing your white. I've transitioned away from a white and chartreuse spinnerbait. Spinnerbait and crankbait I was throwing 2 weeks ago on the river because the color of the river has completely changed, okay? And that's affecting the fish. The fish are moving. They're not staying. They're not suspending yet. So when this water starts to clear up just a little bit, you're still in that area, it's a good time, okay, to just keep that in mind, that you want to have these darker color pattern spinnerbaits and chatterbaits on. The other condition for me right now, downsizing your crankbaits, okay? The bait fish are beginning smaller and smaller and smaller for the next 3 weeks as you get into October, okay? The big bait fish are gone. You're not seeing those, okay? You're going to see darters. You're going to see minnows. You're going to see those small. You've got to downsize your baits. Again, playing on the color scheme that we're seeing, playing on the stained water. Let me show you a color pattern crankbait that will be highly effective for you. Okay? Orange, red on the bottom, purple, blue, black. Okay? Perfect. Okay? Got a rattle for that water. Okay? Very shallow. You can play that area. You can work it in different ways, but highly effective. Okay? Now, for the Upper Bay and the Potomac, the baits may still be a little bigger than, say, the Upper Potomac. The Upper Bay and the Lower Potomac, not the Upper Potomac. The baits may still be a little bit bigger than, say, the Upper or the Allegheny or the Clarion or Shenandoah, okay? And that's just because of the fishery. And so you've got a lot of shad in there, you've got herring in there, you've got all that stuff. You got crawl in there. So I would go with a much bigger, and there are two colors right now that you're going to see basically being tied on. And you're going to have this color, okay? The yellows, okay, with some orange, all right? Get that back up there for you, okay? Very highly effective crankbait this time of year, the right size, okay? And then you're also going to see, again, transitioning in the next few weeks. Not so much now this week because I think it might still be a little bit too early because I haven't really seen this. But the darker fall pattern, okay, is what you want to have in your arsenal, okay? A little bit more red, a little bit more orange going into October and November if you're on the water, okay? There are just a few baits that you want to transition to as you see the temperatures come down and the water temperatures come down. The water may be stained up. Especially if you're in a non-tidal fishery, doesn't have that automatic kind of cleansing thing that happens, right? And you're waiting for that period, okay? You want to use those colors with spinner baits as the water is rising. For me, as the water now comes down like we're experiencing today, tomorrow, and Monday, going into early in the week, I think the Upper Potomac is going to come back down probably about a half a foot to a foot. I'm going to throw the crankbait in those conditions. Still early morning bite, okay? But here's the thing that you're going to find, okay, in a lot of these rivers is shorter days, longer nights. That means your top water bite in the morning is going to be longer because it's going to take the sun longer in the morning to warm up that water, right? Okay, so your topwater bite now kind of gets moved an hour to 2 hours longer than it was in August. Okay, and that is key. So you want to be able to be on the water early enough, but you're going to have an extra hour and a half to 2 hours to throw your topwater baits, your buzz baits, your spooks. You're going to have an extra because that water cooled down overnight. The sun's coming up It's not in the sky as long. The days aren't as long to warm that water up during the day. You actually get into an afternoon bite as well again. It was non-existent in July and August on most of these rivers in the mid-Atlantic. So just keep an eye on that, and think about that. Always keep your eye on the grass. Keep your eye on the water level. Keep your eye on the water clarity of what's happening with that. Again, if it's stained up, chocolate, all of that, you want to think about noise, thumping, vibrating baits, okay? And then go from that. I mean, that's been my scenario. I have not landed any smallies in the last 5 days, so the last 3, on any kind of jig, hair jig, finesse, anything like drop shot, anything like that, because the water's completely different. It's all been baits, vibrating baits, thump baits, spinner baits, top water, okay? So just keep that in mind when you get out there tomorrow, because I know a lot of people are going to hit the river. I know a lot of people got a lot of NFL games to watch in the afternoon, so they're probably going to hit the river early in the morning. So make sure you're loaded up with your buzz bait, your spinner bait, your spook, your top water stuff, chatter bait. Hit that, okay? And you're probably off the water by lunch in order to go watch some football. All right, mates, just another update. Appreciate the love. Channel keeps growing. You guys are awesome. Again, keep the messages coming to me. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, JL Scott Fishing, as well as YouTube, obviously. You can always send me a personal DM and get with me. If you need my number, if you want me to text you information, if you live in the DMV area and you want information on the Monocacy, the Upper Potomac, the Lower Potomac, Shenandoah, things like that, and you want me to just text you what I'm seeing, hey, that's cool. Just let me know. Give me your number, and we'll make that happen for you. All right, mates.